Do you want to say anything about you?
Sure. I'm Kandi Woodard. This is my first year teaching here at Evergreen, but I taught 3 years over in the Othello School District, teaching all grades of English, including COE. And I was a teacher leader in my building, so I was responsible for doing PLCs and trainings and things like that. So we have done Google trainings before in previous schools, and it's a lot of fun, and we thought we'd offer it again as an opportunity to share with you guys what we know about Google. So.
And I'm Matt Woodard. I'm married to that one. I have about 2 years teaching experience in the college level, and I work in K through 12 technology. So I work in the IT department at Catlin Gable School right now. Back in Othello, I worked in the tech department there. We did a lot of collaboration, especially with Google stuff. Othello at the time was in the process of going to one-to-one. They're still in that process, and they're doing it with Chromebooks. And this was the first year, of course, right after we left, that they went one-to-one with Chromebooks in the middle schools. Now every middle schooler has a Chromebook, which is fun and terrifying. It's a lot of power to give a middle schooler, a lot of power to give anybody. Anyway, so like she said, we've got some experience teaching Google stuff, and we kind of just wanted to share it with you. The main point of today's training is to find the right tools. The little website that's listed down there, that bottom, that goo.gl short code, there's going to be a ton of resources on there afterwards. There's already some stuff up there now that just kind of covers the basics of the main points, as well as some additional resources for you to have in the future. So you don't leave here today and feel like, oh man, I learned all this great stuff and now I'm going to forget it 10 minutes later. It's all there pretty much, as well as the whole slide deck will be there. We're recording today's section on video and audio, and that'll get posted at some point as well. So I'm going to start with a pretty classic piece of dad advice. Always use the right tool for the job. Said every dad ever. When we look at using tech in the classroom, we should try to avoid looking for tools and then finding a way to use them. Often when we approach things this way, we end up trying to pound a nail into the wall using like a saw, like a hand saw or something. A hand saw is a great tool to use, but it's not the right tool for that job. Obviously, I wouldn't go in my garage and think, I need a tool. What am I going to get? Oh, there's a hand saw. Okay, what am I going to do with this tool? Well, I think I'll hang some pictures. That's just not going to work. And often I feel like we do this in our classrooms with technology. We find a really great app, and then we think, oh, this is amazing. How can I use this? Instead, it really needs to, our technology choices should always reflect our learning goals. So we should be thinking, see, what am I doing with my curriculum? What tool can I use to best fit those needs? So we're going to start with, and a couple disclaimers real quick. This is not Google 101. We're not going to walk through step by step every single thing and kind of hold your hands through everything. We are going to do some step-by-step guides, but if you want some more basic level stuff, we've got some great resources attached to that website, as well as the official Google Training Center, which is gsuite.google.com/learning center. That's also posted on the website. And that's great for all the basics and some of the more advanced stuff that we'll talk about today as well. And again, if you need help with the basics, Google it. There's also, you've probably noticed this little icon in the top right of any of the Google apps if you're in them. It shows up in Classroom, shows up in Docs, Sheets, and Slides. If you click on that, it'll give you contextual help for the app that you're working on right then and there. So it'll give you the basics of Google Classroom, the basics of using Google Docs, whatever you're doing at the time. It's also searchable. The main things we're going to cover today are assessment using Google Classroom and Google Forms, differentiated instruction and student collaboration, and also extending the built-in capabilities of Google Apps. So we're going to get started by silencing my phone. We're going to get started with assessment using Google Classroom and Google Forms. First, you will need to join our class to participate in our live interactive demo. If you haven't done this before, all you need to do is go to classroom.google.com, click the plus button up by your name. If you're on a Chromebook, you'll be logged in automatically. If you're in a Surface, make sure you're logged into your evergreenps.org account, not some other Google account. Click on Join Class. If it's your first time there, you may see the choice to be I'm a teacher or I'm a student. Make sure to click student, or sorry, teacher. If you click student, it's actually kind of hard for us IT folks to flip it back. It's a little bit of a pain. So go ahead and flip to teacher if you're there. Join our class. It'll ask you for a code. This is case sensitive, so make sure to use all lowercase. S507 MVT.
Is this code something we're going to need to keep track of? Or
Nope.
is it just because?
It's just a one-time.
Okay.
Then you're joined to that class forever and ever. Wahaha.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
How is, sounds like, well, it's learning completely a different thing.
It's a totally
It's an LMS.
similar thing. Yeah, so Google Classroom is an LMS, a learning management system, like It's Learning. It's certainly not as full-featured as It's Learning, but it's a heck of a lot easier to use for teachers and especially for students. Really, the big point of Google Classroom is to be able to assign work, to post things like syllabi, links to articles, resource kind of stuff. There is a very basic calendaring feature. If you assign work using the assignments, it'll actually populate into a Google Calendar, which students can see. But it's really basic, it's really simple. But it has just kind of the most critical features of an LMS, or learning management system. I like it a lot. So, it's time for a live demo. I'm going to answer a short question in Google Classroom, so I'll turn it over to Kandi.
Okay, so on the teacher side, this is just our basic setup for the page for Classroom. On your side, it's going to look a little bit different. So on mine, it gives me the options on here for including like something on what we call the stream, which is the main page of Classroom. There are different tabs that go along with Classroom as well that you can use as a teacher to kind of monitor different aspects about the classroom, including who are your students. So on here it will actually, and this is something that's new for this year, but it lists your students, and then it also allows you to invite the guardians of your students, so parents and things like that, so that they can get emails of their students' progress within your classroom. It's really nice. And then you have your shortcut for emailing the guardians, which is great. Rookie thing for all teachers to know, this is vital in keeping your class sane. This is a feature on Classroom that you do need to change when you do start your class as a teacher.
Well, you don't have to change.
You don't have to, but
if you don't want chaos.
in my experience, giving students the capability to post and comment on anything you put in Classroom is challenging because it gets out of control. And then you have to bring IT in, and it gets to be drama. So I usually turn this off so that only I can post and comment on Classroom. So that means on the stream, for example, when I post assignments, I'm the only one that can post and respond to things. And students cannot put things on Classroom that the entire class can't see. So it's something that I would suggest all teachers to do. And then the About tab is the last one on the top. It will list some basic information about me, as well as like a shortcut to my email. And then you can add additional information in here for like a description of your class, the room number it's in, and things of that nature. And then you can save it. The About section is an area where I put things in class that are applicable to many different sections of the class. So I would put like my syllabus in here. I might put the school calendar or the breakdown of the time periods. I might put all of that in this section so that students have access to it, but also so that it's not in the way of cluttering up my stream here. So students can see all of these. I believe the Students tab is is it different?
Just awesome.
Classmates,
Yeah.
okay. It's set up pretty much the same. Down at the bottom here, this is the add button where there are about 4 different types of things that you can do within your classroom. You can create announcements, you can create assignments, you can create questions, and you can reuse posts from previous classrooms that you have set up. This one's really nice if you have 2 sections of a class. I have 2 sections of COE. So sometimes, since my COE follows the same curriculum, if I post something in, let's say, my 2nd period class, and I don't want to create it again for my 4th period classroom, then I can just reuse the same post that I had in my 2nd period.
And we'll give a demo of that later as well.
Yep.
Candy, just a quick question.
Sure.
So, let's say you had posted something and maybe it was like an entry task or something. The kids came in and
Mhm.
can you monitor what kids are doing? Or can you tell if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing?
You can if you use Hapara, but as far as on Classroom, seeing what they're doing all at once, no.
Okay.
You can do that on Docs. You can see what they're doing on Docs as far as like going back and checking their work. But otherwise, I would say the easiest way is to use Hapara.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one I'm going to show you is questions. This is a really nice, easy form of assessment that you can use for lots of different purposes. I like to use it primarily for like quick writes or quick survey questions, something that's short and simple that I want to ask my kids and have them respond to in class. So I think I'm asking you, what do you want to learn about today? What do you want to learn about today? And then my directions or instructions. And
In one complete sentence.
yeah, I'm not going to do 5 to 7 like all my seniors. So on here you can actually select due dates and things of that nature. You can actually select using your little calendar and a time. And you can adjust the time to whatever you want. And then we have topics. So if I had multiple units within my class and I wanted to organize the work that we were doing, I could do it that way. Down here with questions, you have 2 options to do either multiple choice or short answer. Because I'm going to have you actually write, I'm going to keep it at short answer. This option allows students to reply to each other. I'm going to turn that off for now, but I am going to allow you to edit. All right.
So you should see that pop up in your stream. If not, refresh the page and you'll see it. And it's pretty cool because as a teacher you can look up here and see how many kids have done it in real time. This will automatically refresh as you answer your questions. Oh, someone's done.
Ooh, Travis is fast.
Overachiever. Oh, Anna's done. Oh, look at that. All right.
Come on,
How do you know
Sarah.
How do you know we're done? What does it show?
So you see this done. It's sorted by status. You want to scroll down a little bit.
Sure.
So all these people are done. Scroll down, and Norm's not done.
It's okay, Norm.
Okay. So go back up. What was that thing by? So why does Anna's thing have a question mark by it?
Oh, it's just this is
It's a floating.
it's a floating question.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. So this is, once I click on the question, this will show me this screen here. So you can see all students. Over here,
Can you zoom out a little bit? Okay, there we go.
there we go. So over here is the point value. So I can change this to any whole number, no decimals. So, and then I have, Anna's response, and then I might rank her and be like, oh, good job, Anna. Nice.
This question is worth so many points.
I know. Sounds fun.
I have a question.
I didn't even read mine.
10 points for just kidding.
I heard about it.
10%.
I
Sorry.
don't know if this is the appropriate time to answer this, but
okay.
I had some of the other teachers in the district I had linked into their, I could, as a teacher, I could be a part of their classroom or review it and those kind of things. But then what was happening is all of their student assignments I made to see as well. Is there some way to
They added,
edit, delete without screwing up them? So I don't have this.
Yeah. So the answer to that is no.
No.
You're pretty much a full-on co-teacher, or you're a student, basically.
Okay. All right.
So a lot of people for TAs, they will add them as a student, just so they can kind of see what's going on in the classroom. It doesn't give you all the powers that a teachers have, because you can't actually work with a student on their work as just a
Well, I just
student.
wanted to maybe get rid of the stuff. So I didn't have to swim through everything to find something that I needed.
Right.
But I guess I can't.
And if you're talking about the notification emails, there is a way to turn that off if you're getting all the notifications when students are turning in their work.
No, I haven't been getting that.
Okay.
It's just that, when you go into the classroom and there's this. Okay.
Cool. So I graded everybody's. Good job, guys. Thanks. And then once I'm done with that, I can return. And then you should be able to see on your screen what your grade was. And it will normally hover on like the top right of the assignment. So if you were to click on the question, it would show that it was graded on your side with your score at the top right out of the total number that was available.
Yeah. And as we found out about 15 minutes ago, brand new today, we can see done, not done, and returned. It used to just be done and not done. So returned, we get lumped into that done number. So now we know, everything. It's great.
Awesome. So
Okay.
excited. Any questions about the question feature? We'll show you more of the other ones.
It's pretty
too.
straightforward. So next, we're going to do a live demo of Google Forms. So I'm going to assign a quiz that I've already set up as a draft. Another feature in Classroom is you can create an assignment ahead of time and save it as a draft, and then assign it when you're ready. So you can actually build like your entire curriculum for a semester as drafts, and then just shoot it out one by one. You can actually even time release it, so schedule an assignment. So like you could sit there in September, do all this work, and then just sit back and let it happen. Of course, that's not how school actually works, but theoretically you can do that. If your calendar just never ever changed, life would be so easy. So I'm going to, this is a form, and this is an assignment that I set up. I'm going to go ahead and make it do, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and assign. So you should see that pop up in your feed.
Bless you.
And I'm actually going to kind of walk through this one as well with you. And, oh, that's the wrong one. Don't do that one. Okay, don't do that one. This is the one. Okay, post. So we're looking at the post titled Google Form Live Demo. And the form should look like this. What have we learned so far? So if you're back in Classroom, we're looking at the one called Google Form Live Demo. That's the name of the post, and the actual form itself is called Google Forms. It just shows up as Google Forms, create, analyze surveys, blah, blah, blah.
So you click on that?
Yeah, click on that, and you should see a form that looks like this, called What Have We Learned So Far?
If it's not blue, you're on the wrong one.
actually tells you to put your first and your last.
Yes, it does.
In case you haven't, they have the same.
So while you're doing this, go ahead and try to cheat off your neighbor. Go ahead and see what your neighbor's quiz looks like.
You can click more than one. Yep.
So you might notice that the questions on your neighbor's quiz are in a different order, which is great. Google Forms actually gives you this option to shuffle the question order. You can actually shuffle the options within a question, so it makes it harder for kids to cheat off each other if they're sitting right next to each other. So if you have like a 50 question test, it's all shuffled so they can't just look over and compare answers one by one.
So both the questions and the responses.
And the responses, yeah. It's a handy feature. So let's see. I'm just going to answer these. The best
We're not
advice.
watching the show again.
Go ahead and watch the video.
So fast.
It was literally the shortest video I could find. It's about half a second. So don't spend too much time on this, just kind of go through it. Don't bother uploading a selfie. I just wanted to show you that you can actually upload files through a Google form.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for
New score.
Yes.
I got a 2 out of 12. Please consider.
That's better than my score. I got a 1 out of 12.
Keep no one in the room is surprised.
I don't want to see what you did.
Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap
I
up.
think it's rigged. I'm gonna get a 2 out of 12.
So, Google Forms, the quiz feature, is fairly rudimentary as far as the quote-unquote automatic grading. The only question types it can actually automatically grade are checkbox type questions or multiple choice questions. So select, one or more of the above, or select one at a time. That's why it gave me a 1 out of 12. But you can use it to give feedback to your students, tells them what they got wrong, tells them what they got right, tells them what the right answer was. Like I said, the best advice is Sylvester Stallone advice. Obviously not true. Dads give the best advice because they tell us how to us tools. Of course, dads don't always give the best advice. I'm not saying that's blanket true. Was this video useful? No, there was no correct answer for that. How are you feeling? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. So anyway, it does give some basic feedback. And then as a teacher, when I go back into that form, and I'm gonna go through this really quickly just so we can get to the point. So this was what we learned so far. So I'm looking at this from the creator of the form view, the editing view. So I can take a look at these responses once it loads. I can look at a quick summary. Trying to connect, that's encouraging. Keep trying, little guy. So right away you can see some pretty good data. So it does some automatic analysis, creates some graphs for you. Apparently there are 2 people named Travis, or Travis did the quiz twice. The best advice overwhelmingly looks like dad advice. Somebody likes cats, that's good to know. What's the purpose of this training? To focus on a few concepts. Oh, you guys did so well. I'm so proud of you. Where can you learn more about Google Apps? All of these were correct. So it gives some nice breakdowns of data right away. Honestly, Google Forms was built to basically do surveys and polls. They added this quiz feature. Some of the stuff works. Like I said, it doesn't really work for all the question types. For example, when I go to individual responses, let's just look at the first one. Oh, hey, it's mine. I got this wrong. I can actually rescore this.
So Matt,
There we go.
a teacher could a teacher like create a let's say kind of like a student learning survey, and then you could determine the data from that class, like
Mhm.
how many visual learners you have,
Yeah.
how many.
Yeah, so it can give you, I mean, even if it's like, what's your favorite color? You could have 4 different options, or what's your favorite donut? You could add 4 different options and it would break it down into a pie chart.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I was saying, it does pretty good for multiple choice questions because those are easy to grade. There's only one option. There's a definite right, definite wrong. Things like this, when it's check marks, well, I didn't click all 3 of them, so I got the question wrong, even though really I wanted a way to say, oh, if they click 2 out of 3, it's right, but there's no way to tell Google Forms that. It's a pretty dumb system. For the video, for things like this, for the number scale things, there's no way for it to automatically grade that. But as a teacher, I can say, oh, you got a 4, okay. I'm going to give you 5 points just because you answered honestly. Thank you. Upload a selfie, I could grade the quality of your selfie. Let's give me a 1 out of 1. And then any kind of written question, any kind of written response, it's obviously not going to be able to automatically grade. There is another tool that will do that we'll talk about at the very end if we have time. And then this, I can give a grade. Grid questions, grid multiple choice questions with columns and rows, there's actually no way to grade that kind of question even manually. So that's one thing I don't really like about this, but it does do the basic stuff pretty well. So if it's just multiple choice, true, false, and short answer that you're willing to go back and manually grade, it's okay for that. So I'm going to go ahead and save those updates to this person's grade. And now after actually scoring it, I see you got an 8 out of 12. The automatic score gave me was a 1 out of 12. So you can see it's not super reliable.
And from the teaching perspective, I will say that I don't use the form quizzes to actually give my students quizzes in class. Mostly just because it's not a lockdown quiz. So for example, if Matt were a student right now taking that quiz, it was for me to check basic assessment on something, they would have access to Google to open up another tab and just search for the answer. And so for me as a teacher, that takes more work to have to monitor like every single student's device, whether they're actually taking the assessment as they should or whether they're going on and searching up the answers. So I primarily do use forms on my classroom as a survey or a way to have students show me their selection in an assignment such as student choice. The most recent assignment that I did where I used that was I did a survey with students about a specific topic that they wanted to write on for class, where they got to choose between writing a community change for Evergreen High School or a change for the actual city of Vancouver. And it was all prompts that the kids came up with. And they had to go through and they ranked all of them, and from that and the graphs that I gathered from it, I was able to determine which choice they wanted for Evergreen and which one they wanted for the community. And then from that, we were able to go forward with the project. So in that sense, it's really good for surveys and just quick check-ins.
Mm-hmm. And it can be used for real assessment if used cautiously.
Yeah, I use it for a warm-up in math. It's like, kids need to know these things before we go on.
Mm-hmm.
So I use a warm-up and ask questions about these things, and then if most of the class gets it right, go on. If they get it wrong, I review. So I use it as a warm-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good check for understanding. So, where we are, we've learned that we can use basic digital assessment tools to quickly collect data or assess understanding using the question feature in Google Classroom. And we can use more advanced digital assessment tools to do things you just can't do in a paper quiz, i.e. there's no way on paper to have kids watch a YouTube video and then reflect on it, even though that was a silly 1-second video. Theoretically, you could have them on headphones, and they could be watching a clip from history.com or something, and then write a quick reflection on it within a Google form without actually leaving that form. So there's some interesting things you can do with that, as well as do some quick analysis with some nice visuals, pie charts, bar graphs, things like that. So before we move on, any questions about either of those platforms? We are going to talk more in depth about a way to kind of augment the abilities of Google Forms to do a better automatic grading. Any questions? Sarah?
So if you can walk the like the website that they're only allowed to be on that Google Form website,
Mhm.
are they able to still submit it?
Yes.
Or like, if that, so that doesn't count as a different page?
Right, so, and actually,
To get that.
we did that,
Yes.
and Kandi was fighting to get that here to work with the tech department, but it didn't work out.
They actually
Um,
have mentioned that they were talking about bringing in,
Papara can do that, can lock your website.
Hey, there you go.
But one of the, so like I locked my classroom, but then they couldn't go onto their Google Docs, so I had to open up Google Docs as one
Mhm.
website they could go to also.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If you kind of whitelist the right sites,
Yeah.
if you make sure to get all the Google sites that you need, then that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, basically the way that we did it in Kandi's classrooms, we set up a Chrome kiosk app. So before they even log into the Chromebook, it's like one of the apps at the bottom left. So it would launch into a browser that only had a link to that quiz. So there was nothing keeping them out of the internet except for the fact that it's not a real web browser, so they couldn't like search Google. They couldn't get to anything other than that form. So, but yeah, that's a good point. You can do that with Hapara. So, differentiate and collaborate. We're going to talk about differentiated instruction and group work for students. So, Kandi, do you want to show kind of the basic workflow of an assignment or creating a post in Classroom? We kind of did a little bit of that, I guess.
So assignments is probably the number one tool I use within Classroom for students. It is again underneath the plus button. And it is the second one here. Kind of looks like a little clipboard. It's very similar to the setup of questions as well, in the sense where you can title your assignment, you can write your directions, select a due date, make a topic, and then in addition you can also add on various resources that you would like your students to use in addition to completing their assignment. So let's say,
This is for the group project.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have it already created for
Yeah.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I'm going to show you that one.
So there's a couple, before we do this, there's a couple options when you attach something to Google Drive, or sorry, from Google Drive. And actually the same options exist when you either upload a file from your computer. And they kind of have different purposes. For group work, it's best to use students can edit file. That means that all students can edit the same copy of that file. For individual work, muffins, you want to use, make a copy for each student. This is useful for templates and worksheets where every student needs to work in their own copy of the assignment. For readings, handouts, information, basically things where you don't need student response, you can use students can view file for the file attachment option. And that basically means they can look at it, like if it's a PDF or a reading or something that they don't need to make changes to, then they can just view the file for reference. So I've got some demo teacher and demo student accounts set up through my school, catlin.edu. So we're going to jump in there. And create a new assignment. Grab group 1. Okay. So let's call this group project. And let's say the goal is to make the best group presentation ever, of course. And so where this differs from just a normal assignment is we're not going to assign this to every student in the class. I have students A through E, Alfred, Belle, Carlos, Denise, and Ephraim. So I'm going to uncheck this box that says all students. And let's say that Alfred and Belle are in a group, but the rest of the students are not in this group. So I'll check only those 2 students. I'll give it a due date of tomorrow. Let's say it's due at midnight. Let's put it in my differentiate and collaborate topic that I already set up. And super crucial, I'm going to make sure that students can edit the file. That means that both of those two students will be working in the same copy of the same file. And I will assign. Okay, so that assigns it to those two students. And let me actually switch over here to Alfred. And here's my fake class, hyperbolic anomalies. I actually Googled that. It has something to do with the orbits of planets, but I totally made it up. Here we go, group project. So there's that slideshow that I just posted. Let me go to a different student in the class. Let's open Denise's account. Go to her classes. Go to hyperbolic anomalies. And you see that assignment's not here. There's just this argumentative essay that I posted earlier. And Classroom wants to give me a tour and I don't care. Okay. So, back on the teacher side over here, I'm going to create a new assignment, but I'm actually going to reuse that same post that I just used. That way I don't have to type the directions again. I don't have to set the due date in. Actually, I will have to set the due date, but I don't have to type the description or anything like that. So let's reuse group project. And I'm actually going to get rid of this one. I don't want to use group 1 again because I want to give them a separate slideshow to work in with their partners. So I'm going to go to Drive. Find my group 2 presentation that I've already set up. Add it. And I'm going to assign it to the rest of my class, Carlos, Denise, and Ephraim. And I'm going to make sure that students can edit file. Look good? Okay. So once I assign this, momentarily it should show up in Denise's stream. You can see, oh, it gives me a little flag that says stream was updated. So I'm going to show, and there it is, group project, and I can see this is group number 2. And if I go back to, oh, where'd Alfred go? Alfred, where are you? If I go back to Alfred, he still has his group 1. So it's 2 different actual files, and then they get assigned to the students that you tell them to. So it's the same assignment. The teacher sees multiple copies of it in their stream. Group project for group 1, group project for group 2. And if I were smarter, I could have renamed it right here. I could have said group project for group 2. So the teacher sees all those copies, basically. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 groups, you see an assignment for each, but the student only sees what's relevant for their group. Question?
Can they share with each other across groups?
They could, because it's Google. You can share anything with anybody. Just have to tell them, hey, don't do that.
But if they do, and you are suspicious of that, you can always go in to look at their what's called their revision history and see who has contributed to
Yeah,
that.
and I can actually even go up to
In the share button.
in the share button. I'm loving this super fast internet.
So let me ask you a question while it's loading.
Yeah.
So I would not necessarily have to have a document for group 1 and a document for group 2. I could just have group presentation document
No,
assigned
you're-
to those 3 kids and assigned to those 3 kids.
You actually need a separate copy, because every time that you post it, if I'm saying students can edit file, they're editing my original that I made. It's not creating a new copy for them. So you actually need to create separate files, distinct files for each group, and then assign each unique file to each unique group.
Okay.
So if I go up to share, this is for group 2, I can see who it's shared with. It's shared with Denise, Carlos, and me as the teacher. It's shared with Kandi Woodard and Matt Woodard because we have access to this folder, and Ephraim. But it is not shared with Alfred and Belle. So you can tell that those 2 students from that other group are not shared in here. At some point, if they had been in this draft, like say it got shared with them and then unshared with them later, I would still be able to see it in the revision history, which is what Kandi mentioned. Revision history is your best friend. You can see
Oh, it's so great.
what students did when. So if you could go back and see like, oh, look, this student wrote a 5-page essay in 30 seconds. How did they do that? Oh, they copied and pasted it from the internet. Not that kids would ever do that. But you can see really quickly the progress of their whole assignment. And yes, theoretically, they could have written it in another doc and pasted it in. But that's something it's pretty obvious to see when students have just, all of a sudden they did a lot of work. I wonder where that came from. It's really nice to keep track of their progress through an assignment as well. Plus you can see where they struggled. Maybe they had like a really great thesis statement at the beginning, and then they went back and changed it and it wasn't as good. You as a teacher can go back and say, hey, I really liked what you had written before. Why don't we go back to that? And you can pull just that part of the document and put it into the new one.
I've had students in the past get really upset or frustrated with their writing or something that's gone on in the class during the day, and they'll just go through and they will delete their entire paper. And they'll highlight it all and be like, it's gone. And then the next day in class, they'll be like, oh, miss, I deleted all of it. It's gone. I have to start over. I'm like, no, you don't. So that's been nice for going back into the revision history. You can restore what the students had worked on. And I can show you guys what that looks like if you would like in one of my classes. I don't mind. Another thing is nice is that you can kind of track if you're concerned whether a student was working on something in class or doing something else, and you just want to verify that they actually did work on their paper. You can look at the revision history and see how much time was spent on it. One time I had this, and it was at my old school. I had a boy who came into school early and told his mom he was working all day on his paper, and then 20 minutes before school was out, he came and told me he needed more time because he'd been working all day on his paper. And then I looked at his revision history, and he had only spent 15 minutes on his paper. So we had to have a conversation about use of time and things like that. But it was really nice because then I was able to go back to the parent and say, listen, he didn't work on his paper all day. This is how much he worked on his paper, and then make a plan from there. So in some sense, it's nice. It keeps students accountable for what they're doing in their document, which is good.
So we talk about that. Okay, we're at another checkpoint. What do we learn so far? We can use Google Classroom to assign different work to different groups or individuals. We can use Classroom to assign worksheets or attach templates for assignments. And we can also reuse previous assignments from last period, last week, last semester, last year. Like I said, this is a really powerful tool because it allows you to basically reuse your curriculum over and over again. And then you can make just small tweaks to make it more relevant to what you're doing now. But if you've done all the work already, why do it again? Just reuse it and then tweak it for your current class. So, time for a donut break? How are we doing?
Or
Or water break, or bathroom break, or just stretch break? Let's take a minute. Okay, so let's get back rolling. So now we're going to talk about things that you can't do with Google Apps unless you add some extra puzzle pieces called extensions and add-ons. So, go ahead and go to this link, install the add-on that's at that link, and then don't play with it. Don't skip ahead, we'll come back. While we're doing that, Kandi is doing some quick setup. So what we're going to talk about next is a thing called Octopus, which is basically a way to attach digital rubrics to assignments that are submitted through Google Classroom. So you just create a blank sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Can we add attention to our classroom set Chromebook?
So students can install any extensions they want on their Google account, as far as I know. I don't know the policies of your tech department. I would assume they could, because if they couldn't, it would break a lot of stuff. Yeah. But students are free to install any extensions, and it doesn't install to the Chromebook itself, it installs it to their account. So when they jump to a different Chromebook on another day, it still follows them, which is the great thing, yeah.
There are actually some extensions that are blocked. The students can-
Yeah, but I assume the ones we're going to use today, and actually Rubric or Octopus, that's a teacher one. Students don't really need to use that at all. Flubru as well, which we're going to talk about, that's a teacher thing. The one we're going to talk about later, which is the one you installed, they'll need to install for it to work. Okay, so moving right along. What do you mean extend? So a lot of people, when they first start using Google stuff, they do it because, oh, I don't want to, this is great. I don't have to print all these things. Well, we don't want to just save trees. We want to have the superpowers that the technology provides that you couldn't possibly do on paper. These extensions add more options for assessment. That's Flubru. We're going to talk about that later. And one of them helps integrate Google Classroom into your physical, real-life classroom for kind of some classroom management type stuff. And they also allow you to curate and assign the internet for homework. And we'll see what that means coming up. And Batman is my favorite superhero, by the way. Mostly because he's just a regular dude. His only superpower is that he's super rich. But the reason that he is super is because he uses his brain and he uses technology to do things he couldn't otherwise do. Kind of like we're doing with Google. So first we'll talk about Octopus, which is an add-on for Google Sheets. Kandi's going to go through and create a blank sheet. Did you already do that?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then basically what this allows you to do is to, like I said, attach digital rubrics to assignments. It also has a couple other cool superpowers, and it magically integrates with Google Classroom. And there's going to be more in-depth about like how to install this and how to set it up from scratch at our website. It's right there. We'll post again at the end if you want to get to it. Here's a live demo.
OKeydokey. So, this is an assignment that is posted on Classroom for paper. Often my assignments do include papers. And the doc that I have open here is a template outline that I had assigned for each student, and then they wrote within their doc. So this is their finished paper with comments on the side. Hopefully if I was grading their paper, all of my comments would be corrected and things would be good. But for the sake of this assignment, it's completed. This button here is add-on. You likely won't have this on there, or you won't have anything within it at the moment, which is fine.
Oh, you know what I forgot to do?
Add it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that right now.
Well, it's the extension, not the add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just do it real quick.
Okay.
So, and I'm doing this because I'm ever so slightly faster than Kandi.
Yes. It's true.
/web store. So this is a magical place to know about. The Google apps, or the Chrome web store. This is where you find all of your superpowers. So I'm looking for Octopus.
If you're actually interested in adding Octopus, this would probably be good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to add the web launcher, which is going to add a little eyeball up here next to my megaphone and my classroom guy. Perfect. Okay. So now we can go back to our spreadsheet. And I already installed the add-on here, so you should be able to just go. Yeah.
Okay. So I have my assignment here. It's completed. And the purpose of Octopus is basically to place digital rubrics within the document that the student has submitted to you. The nice thing about this is that you save a lot of paper because it puts the students' grades and things like that into their document, and you don't have to do any type of printing or attaching it in any other way. It also timestamps your rubric, which is wonderful because then it's all documented and good to go. And then it also allows you to put comments on your rubric, whether it's a vocal recording of your comments or it's a section for you to actually leave feedback. So I really liked Octopus because it provides students with immediate feedback, and it's just, for me, it's really simple to use. So within the assignment, we're all good. We're ready to kind of get started with it. one thing that you need to have before you're able to actually begin incorporating Octopus is you need to have a Sheets version of your rubric. So what I have on here is a version of the CCSS argument rubric, but in Google Sheets. There are some specific rules for setting this up so that you can use it in Rubric. Primarily, you are not supposed to have anything in A1.
That's cell A1, top left right there.
And then in these top categories here, you can only have point values. So you couldn't have anything else, just the number 4, 3, 2, 1.
You actually could have other things. It doesn't score it with points. You could have like
Yeah.
yellow, blue, banana, octopus.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything it doesn't get any point values that way.
This is, yeah. So if you keep this blank, you're good. And then you'll want to, I put the numbers up here. So. And if you're someone who really, if you use Common Core rubrics, I already have a lot of them, and I'd be happy to just share my Google Sheets with you so that you don't have to create them yourself. You can just have one of mine and keep it forever.
You should post those on the website.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah. So this is the rubric I'm going to use to grade this assignment. So after I have my digital rubric, I also have to create a blank sheet for this assignment so that I can what's called ingest this assignment on Classroom and attach the rubric, that digital rubric that I just created, to all of the assignments. So generally what I do is I'll title this sheet with the assignment that I'm grading. And if I'm doing multiple classrooms with multiple assignments, I'll label it with the class that I'm using. So this is a community involvement outline. This is an assignment I actually did with seniors.
So if you had a 3rd period class and a 6th period class, you'd want to do one of these for each period. And we call it Rubric because that stands for Google Rubric. That's what Octopus calls it.
Mm-hmm. Any questions so far? This is where it can get a little...
Mm-hmm. And again, we are going to post specific directions for all this online. So if you're like, hey, slow down, I want to catch all this, don't worry about it. You can see it again.
Okay. So this will be my rubric. So with the add-on, all I do is I select Octopus and I hit launch. And I have my little spinning wheel down here. Might take a while. Oh, good. Cool. And then over here, it's going to list a few different things. On the top, step 1, what do I want to use Octopus to do? Ingest a Google Classroom assignment.
In the old days before Google Classroom, Octopus was actually the only way to kind of collect student work into one place. It managed a lot of the sharing and stuff that we now take for granted because Google Classroom does all that automatically. But you could actually disseminate an entire assignment through the Octopus and then suck it back in and grade it.
Okay, so ingest classroom assignment. You get to actually select which class you're pulling it from. So I'm pulling it from this one. Is
Yep.
that right?
Hyperbolic anomalies.
Perfect.
Not a real thing.
And then from that, it will also allow you to select the assignment. I'm going to select the essay.
And it'll ingest it. It'll munch on it for a little bit and spit it back out. And you have the option to ingest only ones that are turned in. When it's a template assignment like this, where there's already an assignment out there that they just have to write into that doc, we go ahead and ingest all of it because then it'll see all of those assignments whether they're completed or not. That way you don't have to re-ingest once they complete their assignments.
Cool.
There we go.
So these are all the students that are in that class. And because, again, it is a template that I created, it's attached the grading system for each of them, which is really great. Now, in order to actually do the grading on their paper, I have to attach the rubric so that they know, the assignment knows what it is that I'm scoring it against. Okay.
Okay. This might break everything. Let's see.
No, jeez.
Just review permissions. Yeah, that's fine. Rubric wants your soul. Okay. It's okay. It's a demo account. We don't care. No. Generally speaking, especially with any of the add-ons that we are suggesting today, they are from reputable creators. They're not going to steal any of your data or do anything bad. It is good to always review what permissions it's asking for. If it's like looking for something like, I want to look at all of your contacts in your email, you probably don't want to give anyone that. But if it's just like, I want to view and manage your Google Drive files, that's fine. It's only going to do it for the purposes of what you specifically give it. So if I say, yeah, it's okay to look at my drive files, it's not going to look at your entire drive. It's just going to look at this one that I just fed it. I want to make a new rubric? Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and hit the attach rubric, which is asking me to attach the rubric that I created for this assignment.
There it is.
There are 3 options down here that you can check or uncheck. First one is make rubric viewable to students. I always leave that one checked. The bottom 2 allow students to self-assess or send email notification to students. I usually turn these off. Email notifications to students you can leave on. Here, students don't really have very consistent access with their student accounts, so I usually just turn that off. Also, if I am grading their papers at like 11 o'clock at night and I attach a rubric, they will get some of my students will get notifications on their phone, so I try to be respectful of their sleep. And so I usually don't check that one because I don't want to have to worry about that. So then I can hit attach rubric. But it's up to you. You maybe have a more organized life than me.
Meaning you don't have a toddler.
Maybe.
Tagging student files.
And this part can take a little while sometimes. Especially if you have a large class. It might take a little bit to attach a rubric on. I think the internet's just really slow.
It also does depend on your internet speed. There we go.
Great. All right. So now it's all attached and good to go. So I don't actually really need to even look at this sheet anymore. Okay, so if I've attached the rubric to all of my students' assignments now, I can actually just go in, and at the top is that little shortcut. It looks like the I. And that is our shortcut for Octopus here. And it will pop up the rubric. Cool thing about Octopus is it will show you the student's paper at the same time as the rubric. I really enjoy that because sometimes I need to remind myself why it is that I've graded the student the way I have. You can expand the window at the top here so that you can see more. Oh, internet. Okay. And you'll notice that the comments and everything are still there as well because this is all live.
It's a fully functional Google Docs interface, just kind of inside the special plugin box.
Mm-hmm. So at the top, there are different tabs for the different sections that I had set up within Sheets. So just popping back to that so you can see it. The tabs correlate with these columns on the side that I had for titles.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so at the top, you can actually type in the number And I believe we can do 0.5.
We can do any decimal number.
Yeah, so let's say this student was sort of in between a 4 and a 3. You could type in 3.5 and it would highlight both of these categories, which is pretty great. And that would be for the statement of purpose and focus. So once I've graded that, I can go ahead and click on the next one. And you can either type it in or you can just click on the box. So maybe they didn't do so good on organization. Elaboration, sure. Language, conventions. And then over on the right here, you have the ability to write comments for your student. So you can say, hey, this is a pretty good, first draft for your paper. Let's really work on focusing your organization so that it's a little bit more clear where you're going with your paper. You can also do an audio recording of your comments for the student, especially if they struggle with reading. So if you have an ELL or a SPED kid who really does better with auditory, then you can actually record your comments and then they can listen to it.
Or if you're just tired of typing.
Or you're tired of typing. There's that. And it's a great section for you to actually put down their grade for it as well. One thing I will say that will break the system is don't just write numbers. You actually have to include some type of text with the numbers.
Yeah, if you put something like 3/9, well, Google Sheets is going to see that as March 9th, and it's going to break the whole thing. So you have to say like rough draft is 3 out of 9 or whatever.
I have learned that the hard way.
The first time it happened, I was like, what did you do? You broke Google.
I know.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one thing, one top tip.
And then if I was done with this, I could go through these boxes, see if there's anything else that I wanted to change as far as notifications. I could hit submit.
It's a whole lot nicer than copying a rubric, putting it at the end of an essay, and then reading and going back and reading and going back.
Mm-hmm. And if I had several students who had submitted the paper, I could go next and just automatically go to that next paper. Because I've already attached the rubric to all of those papers. So instead of having to exit out of this screen and go open a new one, I could just hit next and go right to the next paper.
So right here, there's this next button. You can also actually hit the drop down. So if like, say I know Carlos didn't submit his yet, but I know Denise did, I could just skip to Denise.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some other options down here. I usually uncheck this box that says change student from can view to can comment. I let Classroom do all of the sharing permission stuff. Basically, once a student submits a file on Classroom, the teacher actually becomes the owner of that document. And then the student has can view rights. If you want to use this to manage those permissions and say change student from can view to can comment, the only reason they actually need that is because if you've left inline comments, like on this paper, we gave Alfred a bunch of comments. He won't be able to see those comments unless the status of his sharing is can comment. If he's just in can view only mode, he won't be able to see any of those comments. So if you want to manage that using Octopus, that's just know that's what that checkbox does. Normally, when I'm submitting grades, I'm going to return it to them right away, which means then they have full access to the document. They can edit it, they can see comments and everything. So I just usually uncheck that box. There's also an option to auto advance on submit. So if I submit, it'll just go to the next paper. And so we can scroll down and view. I'll close this up a little bit. Go past his works cited. There we go. So there's our rubric that got automatically attached. You can see it automatically does the highlighting. Oh yeah, and if I go to his actual doc, it's gonna see the same thing. So if he's in his doc while I happen to be working on it, it'll automatically update his doc with the rubric at the end. And my comments will show up at the bottom.
And the CCS rubrics are really long, which
Yeah.
is why they take up so much. They take up a lot of space sometimes. So.
So it's nice to give you uniform rubricing for all the assignments across the class.
So let's say this is his rough draft, and this is that first rubric, and he submitted it again, having fixed all of these comments. Like, well, let's imagine that everything isn't, he's fixed it all, it's great, it's good to go. I could hit my Octopus button at the top of again, and it would automatically have his grade already saved in the categories that he had for his rough draft. So let's say he improved on his final draft here. Come on. Oh my God.
And it's still loading.
Yeah.
Can you just click before? No, it's all right.
It's just.
There we go. All
There
right,
we
that's
go.
it growing.
I could go through and change his grades for a final draft.
So it's a quick reference to see what he got before. So it's like, oh, he really improved in organization. Let's bump him up there. But it's like, his conventions are about the same. We'll leave that alone. You kind of just get a quick view of what he got last time and where he improved. And then you can change your comments to final draft.
Just leave the original comment there, and then. just
So actually,
underneath it.
the original attached rubric will stay in the doc. This doesn't overwrite that.
Okay.
So he'll still have that version of the rough draft rubric.
With the comments.
And let's say this is the final draft. Yeah, with the comments and everything.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So let's say I rescored it. I would hit submit.
And it just attaches it below the original rubric.
So it's like the total additional rubric attached to the,
Yes.
Yes.
I can see why there's a lot of people that with these rubrics.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, imagine having to print 4 pages of rubrics for every kid. This saves all that paper
Yeah.
and all that time circling or whatever.
Okay. All right, so these comments correlate to this rubric right here that's right up top. That was his rough draft.
Mhm.
And so then right below here, this would be his final draft rubric. And that is also why in comments I'll put things like final draft, because it's also a note to me so that I know, oh yes, I
Mhm.
did this as a rough draft, this is the final draft, so it's really nice.
Mhm.
So that's Octopus.
Oh.
And if there's anybody that really wants to learn more about it and how to use it, you're welcome to come meet with me and I can help you with it and maybe walk you through an assignment that you have that you'd like to create one for. I'd be happy to do that. It's no problem.
So since
Just
it's
a question, I mean,
Sure.
you said those rubrics that you're using are actually something that was generated from an outside source, you were able to import those, is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes. So I got those from the state because they're Common Core based writing rubrics
You
for.
didn't change them to Google Sheets.
right.
Correct. So what happened is most of those forms are generated on docs or just like
PDFs,
Microsoft Word
yeah.
or PDFs. And so I had to transfer all that information into a Google Sheet.
So physically typed it in, or were you able to import?
A lot of
it?
Copy and paste and clean up a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
Was it a fairly clean move, or not necessarily?
Some of them it was, some was not.
Yeah, it depends on the PDF. Sometimes it copies over perfectly. Other times it has like random character turns or weird spaces or
Hmm.
weird dashes and things.
But if you were using like a Google Doc rubric, you'd be able to copy and paste it over pretty cleanly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, since it's getting a little late, we're going to wrap up a little bit early, but just to kind of give you some quick things. Fluebrew is a way to basically take Google Forms and it'll automatically grade much more cleanly. It works with all question types, even short answer things. If it's short answer word for word, it'll actually automatically grade it. If it's longer than that, then you can actually tell it, hey, I want to manually grade this one question, and then you can do that. And that's about it. If you want a copy of the video when it comes out, please fill out our survey and type in your email at the end of the survey. You can actually skip all the questions if you want. If you just want to get the copy of the video, that's fine. But go ahead and go to that link, or obviously you can just shoot Kandi an email and say, hey, can you send me that video when it's done? And we'll send you a link to our website as well with all the reference material, all the stuff we didn't get to today. So, any questions?
We're happy to stay behind and answer questions if people want some
Yeah,
one-on-one
if there's
help.
one-on-one.
Well, I appreciate seeing Octopus, because that's the one that I've been really interested in.
DrPost is amazing.
I'm really happy about knowing about the reuse post. Partially my own fault for not actually exploring that plus sign when I got in the classroom, seeing it, but that is going to make my life easy for the next 4 weeks.
It is really great, especially when you have multiple classes. It really does make things so much easier.
Yeah. One of the things we didn't really cover also in classroom, you can assign the same assignment to multiple class periods at the same time. But once you hit that assign button, it's out to all those classrooms. So if you want to,
So you used to edit it, then you have to go back in.
you'd have to go back to the other ones. Yeah, and if you didn't want your students to see an assignment before class, well, you know, maybe it's time for second period and you hit assign, but fourth period's going to get it at the same time. So, yeah.
And I'll do a different classroom for different semesters in school. And that's just for me to keep the stream pretty clean.
The other thing that you told me about the classroom is that at the end, archive it,
Yes,
and that will save it.
correct. As long as you're still at the school that you're teaching in.
Right.
Otherwise,
But that's the thing to do rather than to continue
correct.
Right.
classroom
Yes.
second
Yes.
semester.
You can archive your class by going to the outside of classroom, to the outside of your classes, to the dashboard here, and then these 3 little dot options will allow you to archive. And you can always unarchive a class as well. So for example,
But it's nice because, at least what I recall you saying is that it'll capture everything, the student work and stuff. And, like, if you wanted to see what Bobby did first semester in the parents, like,
yep,
he turned that in.
Yes.
Here's the copier.
yes.
If you don't archive it, will it disappear? The student archives?
If they delete it.
If they delete or unenroll from your class. If they unenroll from your class, all their work will go.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's,
So
yes.
is it possible, so students can, when they have an assignment, like you upload a document that is their document, can they delete that document?
Yes, they can.
Can you get it back?
You can if you get on their computer. You have to go to their computer and look at the assignment, and it will say like make a copy or move from trash.
Okay.
Yes.
I had one student do that. I already graded it, but
Mhm.
you could resubmit it for a better grade. But I
Gotcha.
don't have it anymore.
Yes.
I deleted it. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is open up that assignment, and that
On
key
that
will be there
student's- on his
on the student
sorry,
side.
on his
Yep.
computer.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
You're
coming.
welcome.
I'm going to get my kid.
Okay. Thank you.